Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next Women Supporting Women meeting. I am so glad to see everybody's beautiful face. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we have our beautiful speaker, Meredith, speaking on psychic abilities and ancestry. So everybody, please help me to give a warm welcome to Meredith. Hi, Meredith.
Yay!
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm so excited about this. When Anastasia suggested,
Oops. Sorry, I accidentally muted you. I'm sorry. Unmute, please. I apologize. Meredith, I apologize. Unmute. Thank you. My apologies.
oh, it's okay. Thank you, Mercury retrograde, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna blame that on Mercury. There we go.
Absolutely. I had a hard time getting signed in today. I was like, what? I'm so excited because, you know, talking about ancestry and marrying it with intuition, it has been, oh, the spiciest, most wonderful thing that I've done for myself, at least. Um, and I'm just wondering how many people in our group can relate. um, for as long as I can remember, and I think Linda touched on this last time, I would see people, and she had a similar experience where she had someone who would sit next to her bed at night and watch her, who was ended up being a family member. And I had that. I had an old man who sat in a rocking chair next to my bed, and I could only see him. Nobody else could see him, but he wasn't scary. He wasn't like some of these other things that I saw that was scary. I just understood that he was watching out for me. Um, I was raised in the Methodist tradition, and they're a little bit more lax as far as this kind of thing. They call it the gift of prophecy, and it's kind of conservative. It's not, what I do right now per se. Not, I don't think they would consider that. But my mother, I finally got to talk to her about it one day, and I described this man, and I said, he's got overalls on, he's got a stick in his hand, there's a dog. And I went to him in a dream, and I had to walk over a stream, and there are these funny doors in his house, and her face turned white. And I said, what is? She goes, that's your Uncle Henry. That's your great Uncle Henry, who had been very instrumental in her childhood and who got to hold me once when he was 104. So to know that I have my great Uncle Henry looking out for me when he met me once, it was is very humbling. And it was just to let me know too that I don't walk alone, and none of us walk alone. That we always have people around us who, were here before us, whose job was to survive so that we could thrive. And that's how I explained it to myself. Um, and my mother divorced my father when I was 10, and she didn't want us to know my family. And I had half siblings. I had never met any of my family on my father's side, didn't know a thing about them, and always wanted to, you know. And some parents get into this, especially if it's a little toxic, get into the situation where, okay, I'm divorced. I don't want you to know the other side. Fast I had a lot of experience, but this is another one that made me think. I was thinking about when I was preparing. I was working at a gift shop, and I started college. And this beautiful woman came in. She said, I'm not feeling great today. I've had a hard day, and I want to get myself a gift. And I said, okay, let's go look around. And she stopped in front of the pictures, and she said, listen, I got to tell you something. I'm a psychic medium. And I'm like, oh God. Because I hadn't fully embraced who I am. I had rejected it a little bit, but I knew it was there. She said, I just have to let you know that your grandmother Ada says hi. And I'm like, who the hell is Ada? Like, I didn't say that to her. I'm like, I don't know who that is. And I called my mother that night and I said, Mom, a psychic medium came in. And she said, my grandmother Ada says hi. And I know my grandmother's name is Ruth. She goes, Meredith, that's your father's mother, Ada. And I mean, oh my gosh. Um, it just gave me chills. And I never met her. And she died, long before I was born. But to know this woman uh follows her grandchildren about. Oh, Michelle says she just got chills. Yeah. Michelle, me too. Oh my gosh. Um, and especially when these messages come to us at a time when we're feeling particularly alone or helpless, that's what they're there for, because they've walked the planet. They're here to help us succeed. And I think I have one more little story. I did, I've taken all the ancestry tests because I just think it's fascinating. And the first one I took, excuse me, was National Geographic's Genographic Project, which is no longer going. It was just on for a while. And it traced your mitochondrial DNA back to your mother's into infinity. And so I learned that my mitochondrial DNA said that I was a U5 haplogroup. Well, I was waiting so long for these results to get in. And I was like, oh, will it be something? I bet it's English or Irish. Blah, blah, blah. Then I had a dream that I was standing on this icy plain. It was flat. And I heard a woman's voice. And she said, Meredith, we are Scandinavian. I'm like, this is the weirdest. What a weird dream. And I signed in that next day just to check again to see if my results came in. And it turns out I'm a U5, which is Finland. For that, I mean, we're all made up of different haplogroups. But that one they tested to, the mitochondrial DNA was to the U5. So that was just more evidence to me about our ancestors walking with us. And I wasn't raised in a culture that really respects that kind of thing or focuses on ancestry and honoring the ancestors. Like some of the Asian cultures, do the Russian cultures do some of that, Anastasia? Yeah, it's so beautiful. Um, and so I mean that started a long delve into figuring out who I am. And I have come to believe without that research, I would have no idea more than what my nationality is or who my people were. It's just, who am I spiritually? Why do I feel the way I do about certain things? Why do I face certain challenges the way I do? Um, and it just answered a lot of questions. One of my brothers said to me, Meredith, he's from Southern California. He said, you've got a lot of swagger. I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's sort of like, I sort of trace back those swaggery people. Like, where did I get how I am? Which is a strength, I've come to embrace. But yeah, so it's been huge. I have my family tree. My beautiful mother-in-law passed away 7 months ago, almost 8 months ago now. And she got me onto her ancestry account. And I sat there transfixed. And she got me hooked in there. I had done some ancestry research, but to have it all right there on the Ancestry app and just being floored at, yeah, I studied in France, but my ancestries were from that very region in France where I lived. Why was I attracted to Ireland? We're not really Irish. I figured that out. There's just a little snippet. Um, it's really like our ancestors are sort of calling us into something deeper and letting us know that, hey, we're here for you. We've walked this road before and it's hard. And we got your back. So I remember one night, it was particularly difficult. I was going through a difficult time. A loved one was very sick, and I went home thinking that I was going to lose them. And I didn't. I ended up not, but I was terrified. And I just laid in bed, just not being exhausted and not being able to sleep and being this psychic person, still being in this really bad place of anxiety. And I was just able to close my eyes and I could literally see ancestors on both sides, sort of walking through the house in a strange way, like, oh, this is where she lives. And I felt their presence. I don't know how I would have made it through the night without it. And I don't know if anybody's ever felt this before, but this comforting presence of someone just sitting on the side of my bed, with me as I slept, and it helped me sleep and I needed sleep. And some of my clients, we delve into these things. Who was there before? Who wants to come through? Yeah. Oh, Juju, you got ancestors. Um, so that's been my experience. I cannot say enough about doing the research and doing the genetic tests if you feel comfortable. Um, it has been so eye-opening for me. I don't know how many people really did not know one side of the family or the other. I sort of felt that because I was raised by my mother and I knew her side, what was left, I sort of felt like they always said I looked like them, but I said, okay, but deep down I didn't feel it. I'm like, I kind of don't though. I was a little frustrated and getting further into her side, getting further into my father's side. I'm like, oh, my big forehead came from the other side. Or, nose is a hybrid, both sides. And just to see people with my face. My grandmother Ada, we talked about how much we really do look alike. Um, it's important to have people around you, or at least know that somebody looks like, or it was for me. So I love it. I cannot say enough. Has anybody else sort of delved into this kind of experience?
You guys can unmute yourselves if you have a comment to make, but I actually relate to that. I absolutely, I don't know my father's side much. That forehead definitely came from there. And but one thing is I also used ancestry.com and I have questions to my mother, like, excuse me, I expected different results.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, because we're mixed as well. Um, it was very interesting results, and there's Finnish people in there too, and I expected a little more of what my parents seem to be, yet there's blood that I did not anticipate at all, but it's because everybody migrated so much. And I found that a family constellation system that I practiced and got trained in helps to tap into parts of family system that you did not know and never met. And you can actually experience each member as if you are them, and you can understand what they went through when they went through it, and why your family system is the way it is, the way your life is because of the way your family system is and everybody in it. And it's a really cool experience, but I can identify, minus the part with the somebody sitting on the bed next to me, that part still I'm not too hot about. I'm like, no, but I do
I
talk.
love
Yeah.
that you said that, because that you touched like it's so exciting. When you that's another thing, like I have so much want to come out of my mouth. When you go back and you're like, okay, where did this trauma come from?
Yes,
Where did this scarcity come from?
yes,
Where did this wounding come from?
yes, yes,
I found out that I had people in Salem accused of witchcraft.
yes, yes, yes. You can see that through Akashic records, through family
Yes.
constellations, through meditations. Very
Meditation. Yes.
powerful meditations you can get in touch with, or just by basically asking questions of your family members who you can ask, like we did. My sister and I went back, and we actually, you can't really trust that much because people remember from their perspective, but
Right.
it gives you a little bit of something. And people, like we learned that there were people in our family tree on both sides that are doing what I'm doing now, and my sister.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, no wonder, because the DNA remembers even from past lives and this life. You are drawn to things that are in your family system because you are a network, energetic network. So you're gonna be drawn to these things. You are who you are because of where you come from.
I love that. I met a cousin, a first cousin in West Virginia, who I didn't know I had recently. And everybody's musicians, everybody sings. I sing, my brother sings, everybody sings. You know, um, everybody's musical. And he said, I want to sum up our family by saying we're creative and we're musical. And I'm like, that makes so much sense.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you know where to draw the power from. All you have to do is ask, and they do appear.
Yes.
And there's an interesting, I love the part where you can draw in a specific ancestor for a specific purpose, because they are your
Absolutely.
guides now. Anybody has a comment?
Yeah, I was gonna comment about my kid.
Yeah.
So many things that are like the evidence of the ancestry working, doing its job. And not only he resembles our grandfather, who actually, grandfather's birthday was 3 days after my kid's birthday. So like my kid's birthday is tomorrow, and our grandfather was born on the 17th. They have same body shape. They like the other day he was like scratching his back on like a what do you
Door
call it?
frame. Door frame.
Yeah.
Like a,
And grandpa used to do that every time, like all the time, because he was hairy.
yeah,
And I can tell my kid is gonna be hairy. Sorry, hold on, my bowl is escaping. Um yeah, I'm sitting on the bowl. So. um yeah, so there's like a couple of things that are very similar, like the body type. His father is not like that. So
mhm.
he's a big kid who's gonna be hairy. Yeah, let me. But another thing, he also has a lot of traits that resemble our father. Like we don't really interact with our father, and my kid hasn't seen him in like, I don't know, I want to say at least 7 years, and they only interacted like maybe 3 times. But the noises he makes, or the fact that he has a perfect ear in music because our father is a musician, or he can play an instrument, learn how to play an instrument really fast. Like he started playing a guitar, and he learned it really quickly because he's got that perfect
Pitch.
ear. He can follow a pitch and all that stuff. So it's like he barely met the guy, and yet they share so many things, and you can see it. Like sometimes he makes a noise like the father used to make. He never seen him do that. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I guess the ancestry is like, holy shit, like you get genetics, yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, and like Anastasia said, we had one of our cousins put together a family tree that went back 1600s, 1700s.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah.
And looking back, there's so many people that were spiritual. Some were in religion, but it's still spirituality, right? Our grandmother was a healer. She used herbs and she used what do you call it? Like
Whispers and
whispers and stuff like that to heal, you know? So it was kind of like,
Oh, wonderful.
yeah. And I was always like, ooh, herbs. I have all these books on like learning how to heal through herbs, but I'm hesitant because apparently in one of my past lives I was an herbal witch that used herbs in the wrong way and kind of killed her parents. So it's like it kind of it repeats itself through the ancestry, like the great grandmother, which is great grandmother, she did
tarot cards. Yes.
tarot cards. Yeah.
Wow.
So like you're doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like
There's no escape.
No, there isn't.
it's totally doing itself. And I'm just curious to see where my kid ends up. It's like I love watching him because he's like, as the older he gets, the more he changes. And it's every year it's a different change.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure those of you who have kids, you can relate to like every year they're a different person. But I'm just curious to see where he ends up because he never met my grandfather. He hasn't seen his grandfather in his biological grandfather in God knows how many years. So it's not like he's continuously exposed to him, So what else is gonna come up for this person naturally,
Yeah. It's so exciting to watch.
Yes.
It's so exciting with my stepchildren. And they're my stepchildren, and it's so funny. I looked at the youngest one, and I haven't figured it out. I looked at her and I thought, oh my God, you look like my dad. Well, no, I mean, there's no way. She's not my biological child, but there's something weird there, the two that goes on with step parenting. I haven't figured out.
Well, it's nature versus nurture. She's around you. If she's around you a lot and you have influence on her, your energy field, your ancestry field can infect, affect
Yeah.
infect me with love. But definitely affect, but also, is your dad alive? That you're
No. Yeah. And I tell them, I said, you girls have the stepmama genes. You have this. They're like, okay.
radiation has not been, canceled yet, so.
Right. And I tell them, I said, listen, because there's some royal ancestry. And I told them about it because they would find that interesting. And they read through my stuff. And she said, but royalty said, yes, baby, that includes you. I'm your stepmama. And of course, that's all of us. So yeah, there's something beautiful there.
Yes, absolutely. Can you touch a little more on your experience with the psychic world amongst all this? I also love that you exploring your ancestry through like visiting not only from what I see right on Facebook, that you're not only visiting like the ancestry field online and through research, but you also, I see you at the cemeteries, like at least pictures of the cemeteries, that whole energy. I love that. That's my vibe, absolutely. But I would love to hear more of your experience, personal experience with the psychic part of your life and how it helped all developed, how you live every day, how you incorporate. We did touch on ancestry. You mentioned that, you incorporate them, you talk to them, but I'd love to hear more on that psychic part of living everyday life. You clearly do this for a living, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's it's a wild ride. I do go to cemeteries. I think they're beautiful. I don't have this creepy feeling that some people do.
Uh-huh.
A seventh great grandfather of mine, named Copen, he was a stonemason, and he was an architect, and he built churches here in the Virginia area. I mean, this is part of my ancestral stomping grounds. And I've gone to his churches. He was a contemporary. He worked with George Washington building one of these particular churches. He carved a baptismal font. And I see his handwriting. I see his calligraphy. I did calligraphy a lot as a kid, not knowing why, got the book, got the thing. I was sitting in one of the churches one day and looking at his writing, and it was the Apostles' Creed. And I consider myself like, oh, I'm not doing the Apostles' Creed, but I grew up with that in the Methodist Church. These aren't Methodist churches, these are Episcopalian churches, which is Church of England light, I guess. So I read it in my head and I thought, this has connected us over the centuries. Not that this Apostles' Creed especially means a lot to me right now, but this is something I recited. This is something he recited. These are almost magical words at this point. And it's given me a new perspective on my past religious affiliations. It's really where I kind of closed my heart off to a lot of things, because a lot of us have religious wounds. Just to go back and look at it and keep an open mind and find more common ground, bridging the past and current time and the future,
Right.
and trying to be more grown up in that way, and taking everything that serves and everything that does not. I remember one of my first trips to and my cat's like, yeah, to one of these churches in the graveyard. And there's graffiti on the church from Civil War. Even though this church is from 17 something, it was used to billet soldiers in the Civil War, because, yeah, that's what they did. So I remember just sitting there and I spoke to myself aloud. And my seventh great grandfather built the building in the form of Greek cross. Like, it is the most unique building. I'll have to send a link to our group. I remember looking up and I sort of whispered to myself, I'm weird, but I was alone. I said, grandfather, if you can, like, I'd love to know if you're here. Just like, this is weird, let me put this out. And I just sat there and I heard some chirping, and I looked up on the wall, and there were my initials, which were like the initials of some soldier who had the same initials I did, who had carved it in. I hadn't noticed it before, but the walls, are carved with this graffiti, and I had never noticed it before. I thought, okay, Grandpa, gotcha. And soon after I toured a lot of these places, I had this image of a man standing over me with a little book in my sleep. I could see it as a psychic, as an intuitive, the half in, half out place we can go to. Mm-hmm. It's not quite asleep, it's not awake. And he was holding a book. I'm like, what is this, Bible? It doesn't look like a Bible. I'm like, oh, that's a prayer book. He's praying over me, like in spirit, he's praying over me next to my bed, and feeling like he was an old guard. Like, it would freak a lot of people out, I know, but it was so sweet to me. And just, another confirmation, at least in my heart, that grandfather Copen was, seventh great grandfather Copen was connecting with me and drawing me to this experience. Mm-hmm. The way it affects me every day, I say I'm so weird. I'm such an oddball. a lot of things that I do are kind of based on that perspective, realizing that I have people around me. I'm not alone. That gets rid of a lot of anxiety. And also, I'm the watcher on the wall for other generations. That what I'm building now for them, I'm going to come back and be there for them one day in the same way. So that gives this feeling of continuity. And I'm trying to be mindful of that. You know, everything I put out, all the energy I put out, every client I work with, how is this going to further my kids, my grandkids, my great grandcats, whoever's around, generations to come? What is this going to build for them energetically? He built churches. What am I building energetically? How am I adding to his legacy of love? He loved God as far as what he knew God was, as far as I know what God is.
Mhm.
Building that foundation of love on this planet for everybody. I want that to be my legacy.
That's amazing. It's beautiful. I love that perspective. Thank you for that. Yeah.
It's been, I'll say that when you suggested, I was like, this has been such a huge change agent in my life. Anybody, if you feel alone, we all have these moments where we feel alone and like things aren't working out. And they're working out. I'm telling you right now, whatever you got on your mind, it's working out. I promise you.
Mhm.
You've got people on the other side who are helping you work it out.
Mhm.
You don't have to be in charge of every detail it's being handled. Just take the next right step. And I think the Bible says something like a cloud of witnesses for your entire life. And I wonder if they're talking about our ancestors who came before us.
Mhm.
I wonder.
Mhm. Sounds like it. A cloud up there, or rather everywhere. Witnesses. Mhm.
They're watching, they're protecting us.
Guiding. Mhm. Yeah.
So I love it. I could talk about it forever. And the things that happen every single day.
Mhm.
That should be.
Favorite by far, so far. What was your favorite interaction or moment that you can think of right now? Hmm?
Cause there's so many. I don't know if it's my favorite one, but it's strange. So on my father's side, I have a lot of cousins because my grandmother had it. She was born in 1899 and she died before I was born. And I'm just kind of gathering my cousins back. Like we've just scattered for a lot of reasons.
Mhm.
And we didn't know each other. We don't know, who exists and who doesn't. And my cousin Elaine, I've been getting to know her for 4 years. Her mother was Betty, and my father and her mother were really tight. They sang in church together, they're musical. Um, and I'd heard of Betty. My father said I looked like Betty. I posted about this recently, a memory,
Mhm.
and I was surprised how much I look like her. But I'm sitting in my house in Alaska. I live in Virginia now,
Mhm.
but when we lived there, and there are these stairs, and went from obviously downstairs to upstairs, but it's sort of open, so you can sort of see stuff coming upstairs.
Mhm.
We know stairs and hallways are sort of
Mhm.
these places where you can see things.
Mhm.
Okay, so I
Closets.
see this blonde. I see this blonde updo coming up the stairs. What is this?
Uh-huh.
And this gorgeous woman comes up,
Mhm.
just very fashionable, lovely. I'm like, oh my God, who is this? And my cousin Elaine said to me, in a different subject, she goes, my mom used to put her hair up and all of this. And I'm like, oh yeah. And I hadn't really seen a picture of her yet. Then like a day later, I found a coin on my floor in the bedroom that said 1987 on it, and that was the year she died. I don't have coins around. Like, I don't have cash and coins. So to find that, I think it was a penny, it said 1985 on it, or 1987, sorry.
Mhm.
And to watch all that come together. And no, even Aunt Betty, even she's around for me.
Mhm.
And I love that. I love knowing that I look like somebody, or and my grandmother, obviously, but that was one of the funniest to see this blonde hairdo come up
Uh-huh.
the stairs.
That's cool. I love it. That's amazing. I love receiving messages from the other side, whether it's for me or for somebody else. It is the coolest thing ever. Well, the other side is, it's not the other side, it's all right.
Right.
there. It's all within the reach. We just can't see it because of the different frequency and vibration. But I love it when it happens. Anybody would like to share their experience on that? If you do, unmute yourself and start talking. No. Okay. Okay. All right. That's amazing. Anything else that you'd like to share on your experience?
Oh gosh, there's so much. And I'd love to share my clients' stories when I have permission to do some. So, but I had amazing people who are healers. I can, look back. I get this image of people hundreds of years ago around the fire, doing hair, untangling hair, reading things, reading leaves. There's so much there when you feel comfortable enough to open up and relax enough to let them come to you. They will feed your soul. They will help point you in the right direction. And if anybody has any questions, just let me know. Text me. You know where to find me.
I
I'd
would
love to.
like you to describe, because I know what it feels like for me when they're around. And when I know it's not something I'm making up with my mind, right? Because it's different. Would you mind describing your feeling of how you feel when you know they're there? When what is your experience is like when you know they're there and they're helping, and what does that feel like to you? So that
It,
people can
yeah.
identify it within themselves if it's similar to yours.
Um, Within myself, even if I'm a state of anxiety,
Mhm.
I feel this rush of peace and calmness. And like there's someone in the room, like I feel it right now.
Yes.
Someone to my left. I know there are people here. I mean, they're always around us, but when they're engaged and they're actively engaged with us, there's this sense of peace that washes over me.
Mhm.
I feel, even if sort of my ego is in outer space, like, oh, what am I going to do? I feel myself sort of centering again, grounding again, and I feel a little bit joy.
Mhm.
A lot of joy.
Mhm.
Is that how it feels for you? Does it feel like peace?
Yes, absolutely. It feels like you, and it's the same whether it's an ancestor or I'm asking for guidance from my spiritual guides, because it's all the same. It's all the same team. Even your higher self is you still, your ancestor, because you've reincarnated so many times that it's still the same team.
Cookie dough, yeah.
Yeah, so the way I feel is the same as you do. Oh, all of a sudden, no matter what was doing, it's like you washed over, like you feel this loving, calming presence, as if you were just given the most loving hug, or
Yeah.
enveloped in this really love, and all of a sudden you feel like a relief, and sort of it's from within, from the heart, and there's a form of opening in your chest or anything. There's no more of this, and my mind slows down, I notice. The
Yes,
mind slows
absolutely.
down, yeah. So you are present enough. It's like they will speak to you in the moment when you are ready to listen, not when you're all over the place. But it's like they see an opening and they go and it spreads, and all of a sudden you're like, you can breathe, you are centered, you feel warm and loving, and you're like, and you just know. Thank you. And
I
there,
like how you said that. You said just a little opening.
yeah,
Just a little opening, a little bit of just a second of awareness, and it's just okay. Now they can kind of flood in. And I have to say this too. I don't know how you feel about this.
yeah,
You know, we know there are ancestors and our guides and our angels, and there are other things as well.
yes,
There are things which, if I feel a presence and I start feeling anxious, that's not
no,
ancestors.
no.
So that's the point where I'm like, okay,
Yes, thank you. That is an important, very important, even I, and feel free to not agree. But we all have our ancestry field is filled with people who were not loving, maybe murderers or less than loving, lovable, you know? But on the soul level, they're all the same. As a human being, they may have been the most gruesome, not lovable people who did bad things to us or others. But once they hit that soul energy level, it doesn't matter. It's really your perception of them that colors the exchange of information. If
yes,
you know that they were a certain way, you're gonna perceive their energy a certain way. But if you really truly zoom out of that and approach it from a neutral point of just energy, it's all the same. And even that serial killer uncle will feel loving on an energy like feeling, because once they hit up there, all kinds of filtrations happen, I guess, healing all kinds. So once they re-emerge into the energy field, it's the same neutral loving energy. We are the ones who give it the color. So I agree with you there, and I thank you for pointing that out, because if you're calling on to your ancestors and something less than loving comes through, that is not your ancestor, even if you think it's your killer uncle. Yeah, I don't know why uncle. Could be
that's
aunt,
a good example. No,
aunt,
uh,
but but it is a lower frequency entity, I believe,
I
and
like that word entity. Yeah,
yeah, check in with your vibration if that's happening, because that's attracted to you for a reason. Yeah.
and another thing is too, just because, and I did do psychic development courses, and one lesson that I take home and I have in the back of my head all the time is, just because they're my relatives,
Yeah.
just because they've passed on,
Yeah.
doesn't mean I have to interact with them.
Nope.
You ultimately have the power to say yes to some things and no to other things, and
Yes.
keep it moving. Do what feels good to you.
Yes. Freedom to choose, absolutely. Same goes for living people.
Yeah, it extends into like relatives or relatives I won't deal with.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Not out of hatred, just like
Yeah.
I can't do this.
For your peace of mind and mental health.
And I'll love them from afar or
That,
not.
that's it. You don't even have to love them. Just
Right, you don't have to love them. No.
no matter who they are. Yes. Absolutely. That is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Uh-huh. Anybody has anything to comment on? Questions, concerns, experiences? What questions do we have? Comments? Michelle?
So I don't know if I have ever, I may have told you, Anastasia, and possibly Meredith. So last year, Marcus and I were coming home from the beach. And I'm always like, when you get from the beach, you're full of sand and you're sweaty and you just can't wait to get home, right? So I'm always barreling down the parkway, got to get home. And I'm always, as soon as I get on wherever I am, I jump in the left lane so I can just avoid the slow people in the right lane, right? and whatever. So this particular day, I get on the parkway, and you guys were saying something before, like it was like a calm, right? There was a calm something in the back saying, there's no rush, just stay in the right lane, just get home. There's it was just repeating, like there's no rush, just stay, just don't, that's it. That's all I kept hearing. And I was like, okay, I'll stay in the right lane and we'll just get home and take my shower and we'll figure out what we're going to have for lunch, and just like this complete don't, just don't rush. My normal like was gone. So we're in the right lane. Marcus had fallen asleep, and probably about, I don't know, 10 minutes from home. And again, I'm like, my norm is pulling me saying, if we go in the left lane, we can get home sooner, right? No, just stay, just drive, just relax. And we were almost home, almost like Anastasia, right before you get over that bridge, there's like, like right past PNC, right? And then it's kind of like hilly and stuff. Anyway, all of a sudden, here I am in my right lane, minding my own business. Not even like, oh, this guy is driving so slow, even though I'm in the right lane and that's the slow lane. All of a sudden, I hear the screech, and there was this big like Durango, and you hear the you hear the crunch, things are flying, and that Durango was just spinning, and here I am, I'll just get home, just stay calm and don't worry. And I go, oh, and my son didn't wake up. Like, after we got home, I was like, oh my God. I don't know who it was telling me to just stay in the right lane and stay calm and just relax, just enjoy the ride home. Because I'm saying, you know what, regardless of anything, even if I wasn't in the left lane exactly where I was going to be behind, and who knows who I would have hit or collided with, or who knows what would have happened. And it was in such a weird way that even though I passed, I couldn't see in my mirrors what happened, because it was just like, just go home. Just go home and be safe.
Mhm.
So I don't know what that was all about, but that was very strange, because usually I'm always like, go, 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 go,
Yeah.
get there. Let me save 5 minutes. Let me just whatever.
Mhm.
So that was very strange. And I think my son definitely has some kind of connection. Because again, we were on the parkway, and he goes, did you hear that? I said, hear what? He says, that screech. He's a, is it our car? And I said, I didn't hear anything. And just as you get, and Anastasia would know, and Eleanor would probably know, maybe Fran too, you would know right when you're either gonna go to Woodbridge, to 440 Staten Island, or 287, whatever, there's that split there. And just as we came over that bridge to that split, on the other side of the parkway, on the north side, there was a car upside down. And the cops had just got there or whatever. And it literally would have been, from the time that he said, did you hear that screech? Till we got there, would have been the amount of time that it would have taken for the cops just to arrive. So I'm like, does he just have like great hearing? Right? Because we weren't close, we weren't far, but we weren't close enough to hear that. I know I couldn't hear a screech from that distance. So
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
That's
I don't know what
amazing.
it is.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think it's an amazing story. I think you kind of might know what it is. Like, what's your guess?
Yeah, he's definitely in tune. He definitely is.
Yes.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
It's either, what do you think? It's either clairaudience or premonition?
I think so. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, clairaudience maybe if he heard it before it happened, or premonition, yeah. And a
Yeah.
form of clairaudience.
Yeah, I don't know if he heard it before, or I don't know if he actually heard it, but we weren't close enough in distance to actually hear it, because we still had a little bit of driving.
Mhm.
So to me, it was like by the time we got it and I saw it, and then I looked at him and he looked at me, I said, "Do you think that's what you heard?"
Yes.
Right?
Know it. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I would pay close attention to that boy. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Ask him for the lottery numbers too. You never know.
Yes.
Honestly, kids are so good with
Yes.
that.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Yes.
Yeah. I'll take them. And don't forget the extra, the Powerball. Don't forget that one.
None of
'Cause I
that.
want all of it.
None of it. Yes, you know, you can develop that as well if you decide to, and talk to him about that as well, if there is any discomfort that he feels in relation to any of that. But I would look into that, because
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, especially kids when they're teenagers, which your son is, can go through little difficult times because they don't understand that there's
I
Right.
did.
a little extra sense is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with the with that, stay in the right lane and just be calm, just it was like a shift. It was like, forget about the get home, that anxiety, that rush, to just complete, like, nothing, and just drive.
Yeah. And you will also know if it's an ancestor that helped you out there, their image might pop into your mind, or you'll dream of them, or you'll just think of them all of a sudden, because that's how they communicate. Like maybe you'll start grieving over them all of a sudden. You're
Yeah.
like, I haven't grieved. I thought I'm done grieving. No, the grieving part is also their way of communicating.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
smell them.
Smell them, taste, think, remember. All of a sudden, just they pop into your mind in any which way. You hear their voice, you feel it in any way. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, Michelle, you are intuitive, so it's a matter of recognizing which way you're being communicated. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Anybody else have a
Just
story?
looking at that caller ID in your intuition.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's very cool. I have a story too that I know. It was my cousin who died very young in a pretty freaky car crash. And shortly after, and that was a very long time ago, in my 20s too, because we were the same age. So my mid to late 20s, because he died at around 28. And I was drunk. Back then I was still drinking, and my ex-boyfriend was drunk, and we were coming home from somewhere, and I let him drive my vehicle while I was passed out in the passenger seat like this. And all of a sudden I come to, because I can't breathe, and there's a bright light shining in my face like this. And it turned out he crashed the car, totaled it completely. The whole side of where I was sitting was gone. It was just me, the seat, and the seat belt, and the bags hit me in the chest. So because it hit me in the chest, I was out of breath, and I came to, and I was drunk and everything, and I came out and I'm like, holy crap, half of my car is gone. The door is like God knows where. And I knew immediately that was my cousin who helped to preserve me, because I walked away with just a bruise in the chest and a sprained ankle. Aside from my guardian angels, clearly. But that's also, I find that the way they died, or it somehow will relate to your story at some point as well. I find if you're suicidal, for example, God forbid, maybe there's an, aside from your spiritual team, that ancestor who dealt with that will help out. Whichever way the danger lurks, in whichever way or whatever is happening, I feel like there's an ancestor for everything, and they will definitely be there because, well, they have experience with it, and they will look for that little window. I feel like. What do you think?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, right?
absolutely.
Mhm. Okay. Anybody, last minute comments before we spin the wheel of mayhem?
Uh-oh, yeah.
And see who wins the goodies. I have all your names already written on a magical wheel. What? Look at that.
Wow. Are you on there, Anastasia?
Yeah, I put myself in just because there were
Good.
empty spaces, not because I would I would like somebody else to have an experience with you because I had experience with you and it was amazing. Any comments before we proceed? Anybody want to share, ask a question or concern or clarify something? No. Meredith, do you have anything you'd like to add?
This was wonderful. Thank you for having me. It's just probably my favorite thing to talk about. What a blessing and honor to talk to you all today.
Always, it's an honor is all mine. I thank you so much for joining us today. I also love talking about this stuff, and I can talk about it for hours. You know it. All right, are we ready to determine
Yes.
who's the lucky gal? All right. 1, 2, 3. Ella!
Who?
Eleanor!
Yay!
Right. Thank you so much, Meredith, and everybody who joined us today. If you would like to please also, Meredith, leave your contact information for us, for other people, in case they want a reading from you. Anybody who has any events coming up or projects they're working on, please, please don't be afraid. You're more than welcome to advertise yourself in our group. And Meredith, yes, please leave your information so that people can reach out for a reading. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
I'd be glad to.
thank you so much. It was
Thank you,
amazing.
Anastasia.
It was very helpful, and it was such a pleasure to see you and to hear you. Thank you again so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. Everybody have a beautiful weekend.
Thank you. And also, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, have an amazing weekend. I love you. Have a great time. Have some fun. Do something great.
I might do that. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
Anastasia.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.